You know how it goes. After the NFL draft, everybody's got rookie fever, talking about all those first round picks that are going to go off this year. But sometimes it's the guys you don't talk about that have value in fantasy. These are some rookies that we are secretly drafting a lot more of than you'd expect.
Now, if you're thinking it's May, how can you be drafting? Well, then you need to check out Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has best ball drafts going full swing right now, all the way up until the season. They have drafts ranging from $4 to $500 with prize pools ranging from $100,000 to $15 million. That's right, $15 million in their flagship Best Ball Mania 5. If you haven't tried Underdog Fantasy yet, this is the time to do it. Just make sure when you sign up, you use our promo code ENDGAME and take advantage of this special offer. They're going to give you a special pick plus up to $250 in bonus cash. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, sign up using promo code ENDGAME, start drafting right now, and take advantage of this special offer.
All right, let's start by talking about a receiver that might wind up being the top target in his offense, and yet nobody's really treating him like a wide receiver one.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's talking about Ladd McConkey now of the Chargers. I know he got some hype leading up to the draft, and then he was drafted with pretty decently high draft capital to a fairly good situation, and I haven't really seen him get hyped up much more. It's like people were just kind of like, okay, yeah, that's not bad. But I really like Ladd McConkey. I think he's one of the best route runners in this class. I think he's a very good wide receiver. I think he's going to fit that Keenan Allen role perfectly, which is why I love this landing spot so much for him, because we've talked about it. This is not going to be a high-volume passing offense like we're used to. They're going to be one of the run-heaviest teams in the entire NFL probably. But when they do throw, they're probably going to choose the safer type of throws. It's a Jim Harbaugh offense. He's just going to want to, get first downs, move the chains, keep the clock running. That's how he likes to play football. That's like how he likes his offense to be. He's going to fill that Keenan Allen role. That's what he does. That's what he's made for, that flanker slot kind of role. Quentin Johnston, who, let's face it, I don't know if he's ever going to develop. He'll be out in the X. Josh Palmer is, I don't know, whatever he is, just fine as a wide receiver. I think Ladd McConkey really could be the number one wide receiver for the Chargers this year. It's not as juicy as it was when it was Brendan Staley and the defense couldn't stop anybody and they were throwing it 40 plus times. It's still going to be juicy enough. They still have to throw the ball sometimes. It's going to have to go to somebody. And Ladd McConkey's one of these guys. You can get him in the late single-digit rounds of your fantasy drafts. And in your home leagues and more casual leagues, people might not even know who he is. He might not even get drafted at all. I think Ladd McConkey is going to surprise a lot of people this year and be a week-in, week-out fantasy contributor that you can get in the later rounds.
All right, now I'm going to talk about a rookie receiver that I'm almost positive will not be the number one target for his team, maybe not even the number two. But Jermaine Burton steps in, and he's already going to be the number 3 receiver for Cincinnati. But here's what's interesting. What about T. Higgins, that whole situation? Things could change quickly. Now, just recently, there was a little bit of a firestorm. Adam Schefter kind of threw it out there that he's getting increasingly disgruntled, if you want to say that. But it was interesting that he threw out there saying, well, Higgins, who did miss 5 games last year to injury, what happens if he gets banged up? What happens if he's headed towards the, impending free agency toward the end of the year? That he could make a quote-unquote business decision about whether he plays. That is going to raise some eyebrows. It already has. This is implying that maybe T. Higgins isn't going to be all in for Cincinnati this year. Now, I think he's a competitor. I know he's already planning on participating. I'm not saying he's taking the year off or anything like that, but what I'm saying is I think we could see Jermaine Burton take on a much bigger role than we anticipate a lot sooner than we anticipate, and I think he'll be ready. This was one of my favorite wide receiver prospects before the NFL draft happened. Him landing in Cincinnati, to me, was ideal because he got Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. T. Higgins, as we know, on the way out. Tyler Boyd is already gone, which is why I know Burton is going to have a role already. And this is a pass-heavy offense. And so despite the fact he may not be the leading target, maybe not the second leading target, There is enough targets to go around in this offense. He could make some big plays. Played on Alabama and Georgia. He didn't put up big numbers in college because there's too much target competition. Kind of hard to stand out when you have so many NFL-ready players. But Burden is a guy I've always had my eye on, and in this situation, I love it. So I think he has redraft value. I absolutely love him in best ball. Weekly upside just oozing all over him. So I'm going to draft him a lot more than most people, and I'm in Dynasty Leagues. I'm willing to pay a second-round rookie draft pick for him. All right, everybody loves those rookie running backs. They do not all pay off, though. Who do you think will?
I think Jonathan Brooks will pay off if you're patient this year. Remember, he's coming off of ACL, so I don't expect him to be full go to start the year. But I think as the season goes on and his knee gets healthier and he gets more comfortable in the NFL and in this Panthers offense, he's going to eventually take over and be the RB1 in Carolina. When you look at the other running backs here, look, they brought in Miles Sanders last year. They paid him a bunch of money, and then he lost his job to Chuba Hubbard. I know Dave Canales, new head coach, keeps talking about it's going to be a competition, but really, didn't we see this competition already? And Miles Sanders lost. Chuba Hubbard likely going to start the season as the RB1. That is my guess. But I think Jonathan Brooks can overtake Chuba Hubbard pretty quickly. Chuba Hubbard, nothing special as a running back. He's fine, but that's it. Jonathan Brooks is a very talented running back. If it wasn't for the ACL, he would have easily been the RB1 in this class. I mean, he still was drafted as the RB1 in this class. But the reason why I really like Jonathan Brooks, if you're patient and you're ready to wait till the second half, is again because of new head coach Dave Canales. What did we see last year? A commitment to the running game in Tampa Bay. A terrible running team that was bad at running the football week after week. He committed to the running game. He never gave up on it. Already this offseason, he's talking to reporters like, I'm going to enjoy showing you how much I like running the football. He will run it over and over, whether it's effective or not. So once Jonathan Brooks does take over as the RB1, he's going to get elite level volume because of Dave Canales. Oftentimes we see these rookie running backs, they don't do much, in the beginning of the season, but then the second half they help you win championships. I think Jonathan Brooks could be that type of running back this year. And again, another rookie you're going to be able to draft later in your drafts, maybe not even drafted in more casual leagues. I'll happily take Jonathan Brooks in as many fantasy leagues as I can.
Now, another rookie runner that I know you and I both like the situation for Marshawn Lloyd, which might strike some people as odd because didn't Green Bay just sign Josh Jacobs, big name free agent, to some money? This is not a perfect one-on-one comparison, right, before I get into this, but let me remind you that last year there was a third-round running back who was very talented, right? Elite speed. Marshawn Lloyd, by the way, 93rd percentile speed score. 40 time doesn't tell the whole story, right? It's the size to speed ratio that matters. Lloyd has that breakaway speed. I know he didn't also put up huge numbers in college, but remember, this was a transfer from South Carolina to USC, and he played his final year with a guy named Caleb Williams handing off the ball to him. They didn't really need to run the ball too much. Last year, there was a third-round running back who was stuck behind a veteran, who was very productive, didn't look like he was really going to have a chance. But then Devon Achane wound up being a fantasy stud when he was healthy. Now, I'm not saying the Packers' offense is quite what Miami's is, but still, this is a pretty good offense. They've got some established talent there. Jordan Love broke out, and they want to run the ball. Matt LaFleur definitely likes to run the ball as well. So despite the fact they do have Josh Jacobs, Lloyd will get a chance to see some carries. A.J. Dillon, I have zero concern about. And Josh Jacobs, let's face it, got a lot of carries under his belt. He's been banged up the last couple of years. This is a high-end handcuff, a guy waiting to step in and take that lead role. So I'm really going to have Marshawn Lloyd as one of my favorite backup running backs, despite the fact that he's a rookie and most people don't even really give him much of a chance. All right, is there another rookie you feel is flying under the radar?
Definitely. And if you're one of these people who just kept on waiting for Kadarius Toney to break out and just being disappointed over and over again, I got good news for you. There's a Kadarius Toney type player who actually will produce in the NFL, and that is Malachi Corley, who went to the New York Jets. First of all, I love the player. No, he's not a polished wide receiver. He's not an elite route runner. He's not one of these guys. He's a slot wide receiver who's a yard after catch monster. But unlike Kadarius Toney, who's a yard after catch monster because he's shifty and moving all over the field, Malachi Corley is a yard after catch monster because he loves trucking people. He loves looking for contact and running over DBs. And Aaron Rodgers is going to love him as a player. Now, he's not going to be a target monster, of course, in this offense because you got Garrett Wilson there. He's not that type of wide receiver, but he's going to be that guy when Aaron Rodgers just, needs a quick hitter or the offense just needs a quick play. They're going to get the ball to Malachi Corley, and he's going to make something happen because that is his game. What I also loved about this situation, on draft day, the Jets traded up for him, and that morning, before round 2, Robert Saleh and the GM texted each other and said, Malachi Corley or bust. Basically, they were on the same page. This is the guy we are getting, and they got him. They have plans for him. They're going to use him. So if you're looking for that Kadarius Toney, yard after catch, highlight reel type of guy, I've got good news for you. You finally found him. His name is Malachi Corley. He's on the New York Jets now. And I routinely get him in like the 3rd round of my Dynasty rookie drafts. And he won't even be drafted in most fantasy leagues. But not for you, because you know about him now. Stash him on your bench. You'll be happy you did.
Well, it's no secret the number 1 pick of the NFL draft was Caleb Williams. If you're in a Dynasty Superflex league, the number 1 pick will be Caleb Williams. If you're just a regular Dynasty league, he's an early pick. What about redraft, though? What kind of value are we putting on Caleb Williams as far as fantasy goes? Well, I can tell you right now, it doesn't look like anybody thinks he's worth starting in a 1-quarterback league. And this is where I'll say that I'm kind of on the low here, valuing him here as a starting quarterback, looking at not just the arm talent, not just what he can bring to the table as a passer. Look at the situation. Look at the receivers that they've surrounded him with. And I don't just mean the veterans and DJ Moore that was already there and Keenan Allen adding him and then drafting Rome Odunze, who arguably might be the best wide receiver prospect in this class. That's right. Some people think he might be better than Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll see. And then 2 pass-catching tight ends and then a pass-catching running back in DeAndre Swift. I actually think in this case, unless Williams turns out to be a bust, I think that he can wind up being more productive in a redraft league than Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, all guys who are going ahead of him a lot of times in these early mocks, in these best ball drafts. I'm not quite there yet, but I might at some point put Caleb Williams over Jordan Love. I really think that his potential is through the roof. Now, I know we've been here before with like Trevor Lawrence a couple of years ago, and that was just a train wreck of a season. But thanks to Urban Meyer mainly. But have we seen him really step up yet? Have we seen that he actually is capable of being a franchise quarterback? What happened at the end of last year? I think I'd rather take a chance on Williams. I think his upside is greater, and I think the risk is less. So, again, if I'm waiting on quarterback, outside the top 10, and I'm just going to take my starting quarterback last, I would rather have Caleb Williams than all of those guys. Those are some rookies we think are ready to take off in year 1. We also have some veterans we think might be ready to skyrocket. These are 10 players you need to keep an eye on.